and welcome. I'm so glad you're joining me today. Today I'm using these two summer floral dies, which was released a few months ago on Crafty Meraki, and I'm going to make some Christmas cards using these dies. So first I'm going to just die cut them using some white cardstock because I plan to color them using my Copic markers. So for the smaller, thinner, intricate looking die here, this is actually called the KELSEY Meraki Para dies. I am taking some green colors. In this case I'm taking G28 and then G19, and then I'm going to blend that using I think G07. So I'm just very easy blending, nothing too complicated here. I'm just adding a little bit of color into my die cut. You can easily die cut this using some colored cardstock or use ink pads to blend in some color. So whatever way you would like to color it, it's absolutely fine. The idea behind these cards are to show you that you don't necessarily have to have a Christmas stamp or a Christmas die cut in order to make Christmas cards, holiday cards. You can actually look into your stamp sets, your floral stamp sets, and use them to create the cards. Here's another variation of the same green. In this case I'm starting off with I think I used a YG17 and then YG23, and then I'm going to blend that using YG11. So as I was saying, I'm just trying to use die cuts that I have in my stash, not necessarily Christmas, to create this very Christmas card. And all that it requires is colors and sentiments, you know. So here you can see I'm just taking this posy, a floral posy, and I'm just going to color that using some red colors. So I've started here with R89 and blending that with R27, and then I'm going to blend that with a lighter shade. And what I'm trying to say here is when you flick those lines, you want to make sure that they're going in the angle in which the petal is going. Like this petal is turning towards the right, so I'm making sure that my flicking motion is also towards the same direction. So that kind of gives more interest to the flower that you are coloring. And I'm just kind of adding flicking motion. Now I'm just blending that R27 with R24, and then I'm going to blend that with R22. I'm not coloring the stem that is along with this floral die cut. I'm just going to cut that away using my scissors in a while here. I'm just going to just finish off the coloring. So this is the red color that I created, and then I have another flower as well, and then I'm going to color that using some W colors, warm colors, just because I want this flower to look more white than any other colors. So as I said, it's just about creating color palette that would resemble that would kind of create an effect in your head. Not an effect in your head, it's more psychological, that when you see reds and greens and sparkles, you associate it with Christmas, especially the moment you add a sentiment. You know what I'm saying? So you don't necessarily look into the flower and you go, oh, these flowers are summer flowers, and they're not really. But your brain takes a while. If you really think hard and you're looking at the card, then yes, your brain's going to say, no, these are summer flowers or whatever. But when you look at a card with the colors like reds and greens and whites and sparkles and a sentiment that says Christmas, you automatically relate it to a Christmas card. I hope I'm making sense there. Anyway, so for the center of the flower, all I just took some C9 and some C5, and I blended those two colors, and that's pretty much it. So that was all the coloring that I did. Again, as I said, you don't have to color them. You can very well use colored cardstock and you'll be good to go. I just needed to add some texture, and that's the reason why I added color. So here you can see I'm just cutting off that stem to just leave behind the flowers. Now I'm just taking this Versamark pen here. You don't necessarily have to have a Versamark pen. If you have a Versamark pad, ink pad, or any embossing ink pad would do, and you just scribble through. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to scribble that ink all over this die cut that I've created, because I'm going to add some embossing powder to this. So for the first stem, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this Wow embossing powder. This is called Cloud9, and it has some sparkles in it, like like a very beautiful gold sparkle, and it's mixed with embossing, clear embossing powder. So what it does is the clear embossing powder, when you're heat setting it, sets the sparkle too in that when you're heat set in that embossing, melted embossing powder. I hope it makes sense. So that's what here it is, and I've just gone ahead and heat set it. You can see the beautiful sparkles on that green leaf, which almost gives like a frosty look, and that's what I was talking about earlier too. At a Christmas card, all the sparkles and the frosts are the more you add, the better, right? The mirror. So that's what I was trying to do. And for the second leaf here, I'm using, this is another embossing powder, and this is called the Blue Pearl. And what it does is when you melt it, it has a blue tint. So it kind of has, like when you turn it around in light, you get a little variation of blue pearly color. It's not very visible here, but I promise you it's there. But again, you don't necessarily have to have these colors in your stock. If you have a gold glitter or a clear glitter, or even a white puffy embossing powder, if you add it, it'll look like snow. So you can really play with these embossing powders onto your die cuts. The other thing what the embossing powder does is it makes your die cut, those intricate die cuts, quite sturdy. You know, they're very flimsy otherwise if you cut them with cardstock, but when you emboss them, they become a little more sturdy for you to handle. So here I've gone ahead and die cut multiple of those flowers, and then I've also die cut this Joy Sentiment. The Joy Sentiment is, the die cut is a very old die from, I think it's from Memory Box. I've had it in my stash for a long, long time, never used it. And I just remembered when I saw the sentiment. This sentiment is from another stamp set from Crafty Meraki, which was released last year during Christmas. And I just paired it with this Joy die cut. And the die cut, I just die cut it with some gold glitter paper. And then I added multiple layers behind it just to give it some thickness. Here I'm just playing around with the composition of how I want these flowers. So I want these flowers to be just on the right side of the cardstock, creating like a bow, not a bow, like a, I don't know what you say, like a corner filler, and then I'm going to fill it up with flowers. So once I know how I want to place it, I am ready to adhere there. So I'm just adding glue to the center of the stock, not everywhere here, once I find my glue. So I'm just adding the glue just to that center, and then I'm going to add a few dots just to the air, like the tip, not the tip, like the bottom of each of those bud. You can see that. So I'm not really adding glue everywhere. I just want enough of it to adhere so that the buds are still popping off the cardstock, because it's so hard to add foam adhesive to these very intricate die. It's easier to add glue in selective places, letting certain buds still pop out of the paper or the cardstock. And here I'm just going ahead and adhering it in different directions, just kind of creating interest in that, and like creating a bouquet. Like, is it a bouquet? Like a corner bouquet, using those sentiments, I mean those die cuts. So you can see some of those look bluish in color and some look green, and the blue ones are the ones where I have added the Blue Pearl embossing powder that I was talking to you about. And then I'm just playing around with these flowers, the placement of the flowers. These things take me a while to do that, and so I have to tell you this. So I have a very bad relationship, and so the relationship that I have is a relationship between OCD and impatience. I have both of them, you know, and they are really a toxic relationship. I am so OCD. I want everything to be perfect. I want everything to be lined up. I want everything to be in a certain order, but I'm also impatient, which means to say I don't have any patience to like, I want everything to finish quickly. I want things to happen really fast. So it really frustrates me when I am making cards. Well, don't take me wrong, I enjoy making cards, even though it's frustrating to me because of my OCDs, because of my my impatience, and because I have other anxiety issues as well. it tends at that moment, it tends to be a little stressful, but I have learned to overcome those anxieties. I have learned to overcome those stresses, as frustrating as it could be, as angered I could be. Like this little piece I'm trying to put in there, honestly, this is a sped up video, but it took me almost, I'm not kidding you, 4 to 5 minutes to figure out how that little tiny centerpiece went into that flower. Oh my goodness. Anyway, as I was telling you, I just pushed through it. I've learned to push through it. And, remember, I keep reminding myself, the end result's going to be beautiful. The end is going to be beautiful. So I look forward to that end. I anticipate for that end and I push through it. So anyway, that's a little bit about my OCD and my anxiety and my impatience. And not to mention, I don't know if you remember, I do have carpal tunnel too. So things sometimes don't necessarily work the way I want them to work, but coloring and creating cards has taught me to get through those moments and enjoy, because once I'm through it, once I'm done with it, it's such a gift. It's such a gift to when everything is done, to look at your card and say, wow, that really turned out so beautiful, regardless of what I went through while I was doing it. So I'm just trying to encourage you to don't be frustrated. Push through it, and then things go wrong always, but they can always be corrected, and the end result is always going to be beautiful no matter what it is. So anyway, here, once I've done adhering all the flowers, I'm just going to take that sentiment that I had earlier stamped and embossed on a black cardstock using white embossing ink. I'm just going to adhere that to the bottom of that empty space. So I've kept that space empty there, as you see there, and I'm going to just place that black sentiment. But before I press it down, I want to make sure that the joy is centered to it as well. So I'm just going to then adhere this joy directly using some liquid adhesive, and that pretty much completes the composition of the card. You can see here, it's none of those stamps, none of those die cuts that I've used, except for the joy, obviously, is Christmas. It's just summer florals, and because of the colors and the sentiment that I've added, it looks like a Christmas card, and I really loved how it turned out. And here I'm taking some Meraki magic sparkles, and I'm just going to add a few of those in various places. Again, I do not adhere my sparkles like I first put down the sparkles where I want them to be, and then once I'm satisfied with where I want it to be, I go ahead and adhere that using my glue. I'm sorry, my doorbell just rang. My son is back from school, and he just rang the bell, and my dog is barking. So I'm so sorry if you're able to hear all of those commotion. It's because of the chaos that's happening around me. Even though my studio door is closed and I have a headphones, if you're still hearing it, I'm really sorry about that. Anyway, here you can see I've added all that sparkles. It looks so stunning. And then I'm just going to take this white side folding note card, and I'm going to adhere this entire panel onto it using some liquid adhesive. Now, you can cut away the extra bits that are hanging out of the card. I don't want to do it. I'm going to leave it like that. I'm actually going to put this on in a 5x7 envelope, and that should take care of it, because I want that overhang. It looks so beautiful, all that beautiful overhang. Anyway, so that's pretty much what the card is, and you can see how beautiful it turned out. I was really, really loving this card. But I also want to show you, I also made another simple card using the same green elements that I've used, or the die cut that I've used. Instead of coloring it, I just used white cardstock and cut it multiple times, and then adhered it to a red panel using, and then I added some gold dots and some sentiment from the same sentiment set, and then I added Merry die cut on top of it. That's also from that old stamp set that I die cut that I was talking from Memory Box. And here is the closer look of the card that we created using the summer floral dies for Christmas card. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you next time. Bye bye.